That was when Martha Patterson looked up. That was when Martha Patterson looked up from her mending and saw him. A man walking the road alone. No horse, no wagon, no bedroll. Just boots dragging like each step hurt. Martha's breath caught. A man who walked this far in August heat was either desperate or dangerous. Maybe both. A thunder rolled across the land like a warning. She stood from her chair, one hand on the porch post, the other inches from the empty shotgun, leaning inside the door. It was just for courage. She prayed he wouldn't call her bluff. The man reached the old mesquite gate, but didn't touch it. He took off his hat, water dripping from the brim. "Ma'am," he said, voice rough as gravel. "Storm's coming hard. Mind if I waited out on your porch?" Lightning flashed white across the yard. Down in that moment she saw him clearly. Face weathered like saddle leather, lines carved deep around his eyes. Not young, not old, just a man worn down by something heavier than miles. Her heart raced. Should she trust him? Should she send him away? Her mind repeated the old rule every woman on the frontier lived by. Never turn away a soul in need. Never trust a man with empty hands. Both truths pulled at her. She pointed at the second rocker on the porch. "It's dry under here," she said. Not an invitation, just permission. The man lifted the gate latch slow and careful, like he wanted her to see he meant no harm. He even tightened the rawhide loop behind him, respecting the fence, the boundary, her home. Something inside her chest eased a little. He crossed the yard like he was afraid to break something. He took the chair, sat gently, and let out a long breath like he'd been carrying the whole world on his back. Then the storm hit. The rain slammed the tin roof so loud it rattled Martha's bones. Wind tore across the yard. Lightning flickered like the sky was ripping apart. The stranger just sat with his eyes closed, listening, hands resting calm on his scarred knuckles. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't searching for things to steal, wasn't even watching her. Just sitting, still, quiet. For the first time in a long while, Martha didn't feel afraid. She felt something else, the strange safety of another person's presence. But then she saw the dark stain on his shirt sleeve. Blood. Her needle froze midair. The man was hurt. Before she could ask, the rain softened into steady drips. The storm moved off toward the far hills. Martha kept working her mending, eyes flicking to the man's torn vest, and that stain no amount of dirt could explain. By dawn, the porch was empty. Her heart jumped. Had he stolen anything? Had he wandered off injured? Had she imagined the whole thing? Metal clanged outside, and she ran to the window, lifted the curtain, and froze. The stranger was shirtless, sweating in the morning cool. Her entire gait laid flat in the dirt. Samuel's old hammer and saw, tools she hadn't touched since her husband died, were spread neatly on the ground. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't snooping. He was fixing it. Her gate. The one she had wrestled with for 3 years. The one she'd never had the strength or courage to repair. She stepped onto the porch, a shotgun in hand, though it held no shells. "You got no right using those tools," she said. He didn't even look up. "Gate was poorly," he answered. "Figured to fix it." "I didn't ask you to fix nothing." "No, ma'am." He tested the leather strap between his fists, then started cutting new rawhide. "But debt's a debt. Cornbread don't come free." Her cheeks warmed. He remembered the food she'd given him. He was paying her back in the one way he knew how. She lowered the shotgun. "Aren't you hungry?" she asked. "I could eat." She went inside before he saw her smile, the first small one she'd felt in months. Inside the cabin, something else stopped her cold. The stove fire was already lit. The water bucket was full. Every small thing that made life easier, he'd already done. Who was this man? Quiet, polite, handsome in a worn, tired way. A drifter? A ranch hand? Someone running from something, someone searching for something. When that question stayed in her mind as she carried a tin cup of weak coffee to the yard. "You got a name?" she asked. He hesitated. "Silas." She nodded. "I'm Martha Patterson." He tipped his head. "Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mrs. Patterson." He finished the gate, wiped her tools clean with a rag, set them on the porch like sacred things. Then he said the words that changed everything. "Storm's past. I'll be moving on now." Her heart stumbled, and she looked at the gate hanging straight and true, at the fire he had started, at the water he had hauled, at the tasks she had carried alone for years. She didn't want him to go. "Wait," she said. Silas paused. "The creek's up," she lied softly. "Crossing ain't safe today." He knew she was lying. She knew he knew. Still, he stayed. And when she offered him meals in exchange for fence work she hadn't been able to do alone, he accepted with a calm nod. "Fair trade," he said, "but not charity, not pity. A partnership." Martha felt her heart shift, small but real. Who was Silas? Why had he come to her gate in a storm? Why did he feel like someone she could trust, even when she didn't know him at all? She didn't know yet, but she would. And when she found out, nothing in her world would ever be the same. Martha woke the next morning expecting to find Silas gone, but instead she heard the steady rhythm of a hammer behind the cabin. When she stepped outside, found he was already walking the fence line, testing the wire with practiced hands. His shirt was damp with sweat, though the sun had barely risen. He worked like a man who had something to prove, and she watched like a woman who didn't want to get used to someone being there. By noon, a pattern had formed between them. Silas fixed the broken things. Martha tended the garden. Neither spoke much, but somehow the silence felt full instead of empty. He hauled water before she woke. Then she made coffee while he sharpened tools. He ate at her table without asking for more. She never had to tell him what needed doing. He simply saw it. On the fourth morning, she looked out the window and saw him already at the far fence, kneeling in the grass. It hit her then how quickly she'd grown used to the shape of him moving across her land. Later that same day, he came back to the porch with dust on his boots and something heavy in his expression. That fence won't hold through winter," he said. "Needs more than patchwork." She pushed a loose hair behind her ear. "I don't have money for new wire." He studied her for a long moment. "I can work for meals," he said. "That'll be enough." It wasn't enough, not really, but she nodded, because sometimes the only thing harder than asking for help was accepting it. That afternoon, he walked to town and returned leading 2 horses, one dappled and gentle-eyed, the other tall and rangy. "The mare's for you," he said. "Borrowed from the livery. I can't pay for that." "Already did. Partners should share what they need." "Partners," she repeated softly. The word sat strange on her tongue, but she didn't say no. That night, the porch felt different. Closer, warmer, safer. Silas worked a cedar stick with his knife. Martha stitched a torn seam on her apron. As the sky darkened, she found herself speaking without meaning to. "My daddy built this cabin," she said quietly. Cut every log by hand." Silas paused his whittling, listening. "Cholera took him when I was 16, she continued. "Mama had already passed the year before. Baby came wrong and didn't live." Silas didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty comfort, just listened like her words mattered. She breathed in and out, steadying herself. "I thought I'd always be alone," she said. "Then I met Samuel. Married 10 years. Lost him to pneumonia." Silas looked down at the cedar in his hands. "I lost someone too," he said. "Not to sickness, to lies." She watched him carefully. How's a person get lost to lies? He was quiet for a long time. "Trusted the wrong man," he said. "Cost me everything." Martha didn't press. Some wounds didn't open easy. By the 5th day, the space between their rockers had shrunk. Not much. On the 6th evening, he told a story. On the 6th evening, he told a story about a neighbor's mule stuck in a creek. He sat 2 hours waiting her out, soaked to the bone, while the mule stared at him like he'd lost sense. Martha laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. It startled her. It startled him too. The next morning, and she found her mending basket filled with things of his. A torn shirt seam, socks with holes in the heels. He didn't ask her to fix them. He just left them there. She mended. He split enough kindling for 3 days. Neither spoke about it. They were becoming something like a team, though neither dared name it. But peace on the frontier never lasted long. On the 8th day, as the sun was setting golden across the land, a buggy rolled fast toward the gate. Black lacquer, fringe top bouncing, and moving too quick for a friendly visit. 2 men stepped out, one fat through the middle, one tall and lean with eyes like cold steel, both dressed in heavy suits that didn't fit Texas heat. Trouble. Real trouble. Silas stood when they approached, placing himself between Martha and the gate, hammer still in his hand. The fat man smiled. Fake. Oily. Dangerous. "Mrs. Patterson," he said. "Name's Thornton. Come to speak about your tax situation." The world went still, but Martha's stomach dropped hard. Thornton stepped onto the porch without being invited, spread paperwork across her railing like he owned it. "Your land's been reassessed," he said. "Value's gone up. Means you owe $47. Due in 3 weeks. $47. More money than she'd held in her hand since Samuel died. "I don't have that," she whispered. "Well," Thornton said, "lucky for you, I'm prepared to offer $200 cash for the property. What a day. $200 for the land her father carved from wilderness, the land her husband died trying to keep, the graves on the hill, her whole life." "No," she said. "This is my home." Thornton's smile soured. "You have no income, no help, no future here," he said. "Take the offer. Walk away while you still have dignity." Silas stepped forward. "That's a low price. This land's worth $5 an acre at least." Thornton's face darkened. "This is none of your concern, boy." Silas didn't move, didn't blink, didn't back down. The sheriff came with a second visit. More papers, more threats, more humiliation. Martha signed what she had to sign, rage burning hot in her chest. When the buggy left, she stood shaking, gripping the porch rail so hard, splinters bit her skin. "I got $18, she whispered. "Been saving 3 years, but I need 94. Silas looked at her, something fierce and hurting in his eyes. "Well, this ain't about taxes," he said quietly. "Someone wants your land." She sank to her rocker, shoulders trembling. "What am I going to do?" she whispered. Silas knelt in front of her, took one shaking hand in his. "You ain't alone," he said. And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. Martha didn't sleep that night. She lay awake on her rope bed, staring at the ceiling beams, while the moon slid slowly across the window. Outside, Silas sat on the porch with his knees drawn up, watching the dark like he expected trouble to walk out of it. Everything felt fragile. her home, her land, her own heart. At last she rose, opened the door, and stepped into the moonlight. "Can't sleep neither?" he asked without turning. "No." She sank into her rocker. The boards creaked softly beneath her. A coyote cried somewhere west. The night smelled of dust and distant rain. After a long silence, she spoke first. "My daddy died when I was 16, she said. "Mama the year before. After Samuel passed, this place was all I had left." Silas listened without moving. "I've been alone 3 years, she continued. "And now I'm about to lose the only home I ever had." The words broke something inside her. Tears came. Real ones, the kind she'd learned to swallow. Silas rose, crossed to her, knelt beside her rocker like he was kneeling at an altar. "You ain't alone," he said again. She didn't know why, but this time she believed him. She told him about her father, her mama, at the babies that never came, the church ladies who judged her, the husband she buried with her own hands. Silas told her about betrayal, a partner who robbed him, a town that turned against him, rumors that spread like wildfire, a life that fell apart even after he won his case. He spoke with quiet pain, like each memory was a piece of barbed wire pulled slow from the skin. "I left everything behind," he said, looking for proof that decent people still existed. Martha wiped her eyes. So you used me for a test?" "Yes," he said, honest, direct. And it was wrong. Her jaw tightened. "You could have stopped my suffering any time," she said. One word, but you didn't. "I know," he whispered, "and I'm sorry." But somehow his honesty softened the blow. Days passed. Silas stayed, worked the fence, hauled water, sat with her on the porch, fixed what she couldn't fix, listened when she talked, shared stories until the nights felt less empty. Then the second buggy arrived. Saturday morning, sheriff included. Martha stood barefoot in her garden, hands dirty, skirt tucked into her waistband. It was the worst possible moment to be seen. Mud up to her knees, sweat clinging to her back, hair falling out of its braid. And that's exactly how Thornton saw her. A poor woman in the dirt. "Sign the notice," the sheriff said. "Acknowledge the debt." Her pride stung, hard. But she signed. Not because she wanted to, because refusing would have dragged her to the courthouse like a criminal. When they left, Martha walked inside and scrubbed her hands raw. Mud came off. Shame did not. Silas knocked softly. "You ain't helpless," he said, trying to catch her gaze. "You saw me out there," she said bitterly. "On my knees in the dirt like a stray dog. Thornton saw exactly what I am." "No," Silas said. "I saw a woman keeping her land alive with nothing but grit." But she couldn't hear it. Not yet. She told him she'd sell her mama's wedding ring, the last piece of her mother she had. "That ain't happening," Silas said, voice sharp for the first time. "It has to," Martha said. "I need every dollar." "You'll still be short." "I know," she whispered. "But at least I'll have tried." Silas turned away, hands shaking. "I can fix this," he said, "if you'll let me." "As charity?" she asked. "No, as partners. 50-50. She stared at him a long time. "Partners?" she repeated. "Yes, equal, always equal." She nodded once. "All right." On Monday, he rode to town. 3 days later, on the morning of the tax auction, Martha stood at the courthouse steps alone. Her black mourning dress clung to her in the heat. She felt eyes on her from every direction. Men whispered. Speculators smiled. Thornton watched like a wolf waiting for a lamb to fall. Opening bid, stop! The crowd turned. Silas. But not the Silas she knew. He walked through the crowd wearing a tailored suit, boots polished, watch chain gleaming. His hair was trimmed neat. A man who looked like he could buy the whole town if he wanted. He stepped in front of the clerk, pulled out a neat stack of bills. $65 for the note, he said. $47 for the taxes. $18 Mrs. Patterson saved. He laid the money in the clerk's hand. Mrs. Patterson's debts are settled in full. The auction is void. Silence. Then murmurs. Silas Blackwood. Blackwood Cattle Company. The cattle baron from Fort Worth. A millionaire cowboy hiding in plain sight. The clerk stuttered. Confirmed. Nodded. Thornton's face went red, venerable. You. Silas cut him off with a calm voice that froze the whole yard. I've spoken to the governor, he said, and the land office, and several lawyers. I know all about the false assessments, about the bank connections, about every widow and farmer you forced off their land. Thornton's jaw trembled. You can fight me in court, Silas said, but you won't win. The crowd erupted in whispers. Outside, Martha stood frozen. Not from fear, from betrayal, and from something else she didn't yet understand. Right when Silas approached her, offering his arm, she stepped back. You lied to me, she said softly. I didn't lie, he said. I just didn't tell you everything. You let me suffer, she whispered. Let me talk about selling my mama's ring. Watched me panic. Watched me break. I know, and I can't undo it. She turned away, heart cracking. But another truth pulled her back. This man had saved her land, saved her home. Stood up for her when no one else did. And he'd done it not for glory. Me? Silas stepped closer. I stayed. Me? Silas stepped closer. I stayed, he said quietly. Because here, with you, I don't feel alone. Her breath caught. The crowd disappeared. The courthouse faded. Even the heat seemed to fall away. It was just the two of them. Partners? She whispered. He nodded. 50-50. Always. They rode back to the cabin together, side by side. Equal. Yet in the days that followed, Silas returned from Fort Worth with supplies. Tools, lumber, seed, cattle plans, hope. He told her he'd sold his entire ranch. Why? She asked. Because I want to build something better, he said. With you. They walked the land together, marking where to plant trees for windbreaks, where to run new wire, where to build a barn, where a new house might someday stand. They stopped at her parents' graves. Martha knelt, touched the dirt, and whispered, I'm not alone anymore. Silas stood behind her, head bowed. Back at the cabin, two rocking chairs sat on the porch. The space between them was gone now. They fit side by side, like they'd always been waiting for two people brave enough to sit together. At sunrise, Martha reached over and took Silas's hand. He turned his palm up, laced their fingers, held tight. We're going to build something good here, she said. We are, he answered, and the wind moved across the land like a blessing.